Welcome to this week's episode of the Unstoppable Force podcast.
I'm Guy,
And I'm Rob.
and this is our 19th episode.
Yep.
And if you've been following the podcast, you'd know that that's the same number as the last two numbers in our year.
Yeah. Quite observant. Unless
Mhm.
you're listening to this in 2020.
Oh yeah, this did not think ahead on that one. And now, anytime anybody listens to this, they're gonna be brought out. It's gonna be like unimmersive. They're gonna
And I
forget.
really want like a time traveler to be in like 2018 listening to this one.
Mm-hmm.
Being like, well, no, it's not the right year. How'd you do that?
It's like, what year am I in again? Oh man, I'm getting lost.
Right.
But yeah, welcome back. This week we're gonna be talking about streaming services.
Yep. With like TV, movies, like Netflix,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of the concern with exclusives on these streaming services, because with more services coming out, that it would seem like there's more options and you to be better, right, for the consumer. But if like the big thing coming out is Disney, and if they just take all their Marvel, Star Wars stuff, now it's only one spot, and now you can't get it anywhere else. You are forced to buy their pay for their service.
Yeah, there's this kind of growing, like because the entire streaming space is growing. Yeah, each company who has these intellectual properties essentially that they were just licensing out to companies like Netflix or Prime or Hulu. They're realizing that if they make their own streaming platforms, if they have enough content to fill them, that they can make more money doing that than licensing these things out for like whatever the fees that Netflix plays. But the thing is, every time a new one is created, it sucks content out of all of the existing ones.
Yeah. And it basically makes them worse. And like even before this, it was a problem with like Futurama, for example, there'd be on Netflix for a while, and then like the last like 3 seasons are taken off and put somewhere else, or like kept there, and then the first few seasons, because they're one's owned by Fox, the other one's like Comedy Central, so then they get moved around. So then you're already like in that sense screwed. So if we're gonna move forward, now you got to buy all the different services.
Yeah, there's just like another service to buy, and it's like, Disney, you're gonna come out with this great, what was like $13.99 or like $12.99 plan or something, where you get like Hulu, Disney, and I think it's like all of Disney Plus, and then Hulu with ads.
Yeah.
And it's like for only $13.99 or $12.99 or something. Yeah. And it's like the same price as Netflix, I guess.
I think at this point they kind of wrote. I think it's like 12.
Yeah, just because they were like, "Hey guys, we're gonna add an extra $1 into this." Maybe a few of you will leave.
Netflix has been going up, and they've been getting screwed by that. Every time they increase their price, they lose a bunch of people.
They actually recently, when they did their earnings report and they had to like release the numbers of their number of people who are subscribed, they for the first time ever had like a loss of subscribers.
Yeah.
And I think that this is not the beginning of the end this is the beginning of the end, in that it's not going to just stick to 40, or it's not a fluke. It's going to continue to happen.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. There's a lot of people that say that they'll move just like only buy the Disney one, because then they have all the kids. Like you can grab all the kids, because Netflix has Netflix, kids or whatever. Then Disney, their whole thing's practically for kids, not entirely, obviously.
Well, they're gonna hardcore be coming out with way more content now that they have the platform to sell everything on.
Yeah.
And I honestly, like, I would not be surprised if that $12.99 next year add $1 to it.
Yeah.
Next year after that, add $1 to it. Right?
Yeah.
Netflix got away with it. It worked.
That was when
and
they
it's
were
been working.
Yeah, it's because they were like the only one or two,
Right,
that existed.
But the thing is that it's very common for other companies to follow suit when something worked that made more money.
Mm.
And it's like, oh, we won't upset it. It's like as long as we can justify it with more content, because we're going to be adding more content. Obviously, they're going to be continuing to
Yeah.
come out with shows and movies and
Yeah.
things. Um, we'll just add an extra dollar. But we're so
Mm.
essentially the idea is that they eat the cost
Mm.
now,
Mm.
get really low, as low as they can on their initial subscription fee,
Yeah.
get 100 million subscribers to Disney Plus, and then it's easier to raise the like if you raise the cost in the initial launch, barely anybody buys it.
Yeah.
But if 100 million people buy it, and then they raise it $1, people aren't going to go run out and cancel their subscriptions
Mm.
because they're used to it. It's become part of their
Yeah.
lives,
Yeah.
right? So the idea is that you make it cheaper
In
than
the
you can make
beginning.
money off
Mm.
of
Yeah.
with the intention of taking a loss, so that as you raise the cost, you then make your money back in that
Mm.
form. Or like maybe they're probably not doing it at a loss, but they're probably just doing it at a significantly smaller
Mm.
margin with the plan to raise the price slowly
Mm.
to then get to their target margin
Yeah.
that
And
they've already planned.
that's that actually might be a problem for like all of them because if like it starts low and now you're okay with paying for two or so like services if
Yeah.
like the overlap is like you're basically filling the void in there. But then once they start going up in price, then you're like, oh, I have to pick one, and then they're gonna lose. One of them's gonna lose out on like all these subscribers. But I think we're gonna have a situation where people like we already have like share your password type deal, and like Netflix
Mhm.
hasn't really cracked down too much on it.
I think it's part of the culture, and
Hmm.
all of the streaming services acknowledge it that it's happening.
Yeah.
But it's like if you're paying for the plan that allows 5 people to
Yeah.
watch, Netflix simultaneously,
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, who cares who the 5 people are? You're
Right.
still paying for the extra
Right. Right.
high cost plan.
Well, like now you're just gonna get one person paying for Disney, one person paying for Netflix. Everybody just shares.
Mhm.
You share the two,
Yeah, it's just gonna,
and
I think, get worse
yeah,
essentially.
absolutely, definitely.
And in kind of in the note of exclusivity of like the how it kind of forces you to buy more of them, and then also the price is rising,
Mm.
so then you have to choose less of them. So it's kind of like these two ideas that are fighting each other, right?
Mm.
So on one hand, streaming platforms, they want you to buy theirs. They don't care if you're buying another one of
Yeah.
these other platforms.
Right.
So in essence, it's actually really fascinating when you think about it, but they're not competing. You'd think that they're competing, right? Oh, right, there's two different streaming
Well,
platforms. They have different content on them. They're competing for my money. Whichever one is better or has better content on it, I'm going to pay for over the other, right?
if the price is too high, they will be.
Yeah, but I kind of mean more in the
Yeah,
idea that if you're paying for one,
it's not gonna stop you from buying another. It's not like
right?
cable, right, where you're buying a like whatever Optimum, and then like if you have Optimum, you're not gonna have you
There's too
know
much overlap for you to
Verizon.
have
Yeah,
Optimum and Dish
right.
because
Yeah,
it's
there
like
you go. Optimum.
98% of the
Yeah,
stuff is going to be identical,
yeah,
essentially.
yeah,
But with streaming platforms, especially in the direction they're going,
yeah,
it's going to be like one streaming platform has only these shows, and then another streaming platform has none of the shows of this other streaming platform and has all of its own shows.
yeah.
And then in reality, you're not actually competing anymore. You're I mean, it is still sort of competing because
Mm.
obviously like if you like the shows of
Yeah,
one over the others, you're not going to buy the ones that you don't like.
yeah,
But if every streaming platform has at least one show that you really, really like,
mm,
you have to buy all of them,
yeah,
which means that even if you're only watching one show out of 150 shows, you're like rich, for example, you're not going to care,
yeah.
right? So even a rich person is still picking Optimum over Dish or over, I don't
Mm,
know, like DirecTV or
yeah,
whatever. But a rich person is just going to be like, oh, I guess I'll pay $150 for every streaming platform.
yeah,
So they're not competing. It's like just as you get poorer, you just have less choices and you just hate the whole system even more because now there's all these shows that you want to watch you can't watch.
yeah.
And now you're stuck with just Netflix or something and you're just like rewatching Stranger Things for the fifth time and you're like, God damn it, I really want to, I don't know, watch the new
Mm,
Marvel
so,
shows on
yeah.
Disney Plus, but then I have to give up Stranger Things. I don't know.
I mean, we might see a lot of jumping around then.
I guess because you can always like cancel it and then like make another one, but all these companies make it hard for you to cancel, or
Yeah,
they try to at least
I think Netflix
dissuade you.
actually is not that bad.
Is it?
But
I've never tried, honestly, so
but like at that point, yeah, if you just watch, all right, this one show that you like,
mhm.
then you like binge it for within the month, and then you get to just cancel it for the next like 11 months, and then the next season comes out next year, and you're like good to go.
I think at least the market is probably gonna react to
Oh
it
god,
by
yeah.
gaming it harder.
Yeah, it's
So,
gonna
like
they're gonna see a lot of loss and a lot of less people on each of the like Netflix will drop off definitely, and like sure Disney initially will get on board because like it's also a new thing, so like everybody's gonna get it because it's also Disney. We're gonna have all the Marvel like new shows that are coming out, so you get to see how that is. So like they'll get it maybe in the beginning, and like you said with the low prices, but I think like down the line, all of the market is just gonna drop down with the streaming service.
I think streaming it's like a temporary bubble almost because I think like as more companies make streaming services, the worse all of the streaming services get, and the focus is so heavily on content right now. And I think it's fascinating because it would just like we've said it's like cable. If you have Optimum, you have all the same channels as DirecTV or Dish, but the reason why you picked Optimum over like or maybe even
Hmm.
Fios or something is because it has more features. It
Right.
has like the big IO button on the center, and that was brand new, and people really like the fact that they can get to their on-demand stuff really quickly. It has this better menu, or it has a better navigation system, or it's more about like the usability, quality
Hmm.
of life of the consumer, and making it so that navigating and finding what you want to watch is the primary goal of the companies and why they're competing and what they're competing over. And now it's just competing over content.
And it's
Meanwhile, there's still not even like features that people absolutely would love in any of these streaming services, like a random button for, if
yeah.
you watching your favorite TV show like The Office,
Hmm.
and it's like I don't care what episode I watch, I don't want to feel pressured to like pick an episode. You just hit a
Hmm.
random button and it picks a random episode.
Yeah, there's a lot of I guess stagnation in that type of stuff with these streaming services because I know Netflix used to have those like not that like a random button, but they had like weird shit where like what type of movie you want to watch? Okay, and then here's like this one movie or this movie, and it was like completely random off of their list, and it's like some B tier movies, and you're like,
Hmm.
in the end, it like suggests one, you're like, no, I still didn't. This didn't help me. I'm not watching this. So they just got rid of that, and then they're forcing people like whenever you like hover over like a show, you're trying to
Autoplay.
read, yeah, you're trying to read the description to know if you're actually gonna like it, and then it just starts playing anyway, and then you're like, nah, screw that, I'm just gonna go to the next thing, and you're gonna just avoid it altogether, and then it like keeps you scrolling instead of watching the show.
Yeah, I think there was a this hilarious tweet I heard about autoplay where it's like my new favorite video game, navigating Netflix without triggering autoplay. Because it is hard. You have to like keep moving. It's
Yeah,
like, oh, okay, I gotta switch to this next
show,
show and then
yeah,
switch back to the show I was on
to
so I can
read it,
finish reading what I
yeah,
was reading.
yeah,
And it's like sometimes it doesn't always like play the whole thing, but it'll start like playing like a some sort of
trailer,
trailer,
yeah,
and
it's
it's just
like
so loud too. It's like they don't even have it be low volume.
yeah.
It straight up just blares out after like a few seconds of sitting there, and you're like, "Fuck no!" And you like switch back and then go back to it, and you're like, "Oh, thank God."
Yeah.
It's and I've heard that the reason behind that is that they were trying to like reduce scrolling time. So streaming service, another really annoying thing about streaming services that started out really fun
Yeah,
and has gotten so played is this choice thing,
yeah.
right? Because like everyone likes the ability to choose to watch a specific episode of a show that they really like or they really like this episode. And I think at first, before you had to buy disc sets in order to do that. So when nobody had access to the ability to just
Mm,
pick an episode of a
mm,
show, it was nice.
yeah.
Because then you just started by watching all the episodes you loved that you just hadn't seen in a while because you didn't have the ability to choose and it just happened to not pop up on TV. But then you've already watched all your favorite episodes of Futurama,
Yeah.
right? And now you're like, okay, well, I I can't really pick from these 50 different episodes that I kind of equally like,
Mm,
and you're forced to choose. So this like there's an overwhelming number of choices, and there's not a specific thing that you
Mm.
want to watch more than anything else
Yeah,
because that's already been played.
it's way easier to just not choose these things, like,
Yeah,
altogether in a sense.
and autoplay like only I feel like made it worse because the idea is that people were just scrolling too
Mm.
much and spending too much time trying to
Yeah,
pick.
yeah.
So their idea as a solution for that
Mm.
was autoplay, and apparently it went into effect in 2016,
Mm.
and
Didn't go away.
apparently what
Never went away.
never went away. Reason being, reduced scroll time. The thing is, though, is I think it reduced scroll time in a totally different way. Because now, whenever I want to watch something on Netflix or even just a show in general, I just look things up online first and
Mm.
pick out what I want to watch
Yeah.
online.
Well, like, a lot of things now is all recommendations. Like,
Hmm.
my friends or family, it's always like, watch this show, watch this show. So, like, I just know what to go into and find it and pick it that way.
Like you almost don't even start Netflix to look through Netflix anymore because
Yeah,
it's such a minefield.
yeah.
You just feel stressed scrolling through Netflix. It's a terrible feeling.
Yeah, you know what it is? It's always been frustrating when you have some really good A-list movies and it's like comedies or like action, and they're just peppered in all these B and C-list movies that you're just like never gonna watch. So you're just scrolling and scrolling. You're like,
Mhm.
it's like so many options, but it's also shit. You're like, nah, like I'm not gonna watch this. Like, why is this even in this like a list of things to watch? Like, they've definitely gotten better with that, but I
It's
remember,
probably just like content padding a bit
yeah,
and to
yeah,
make it feel like
definitely,
there's more there than there is.
yeah, definitely.
But it's you water everything down. It's like when Steam added or they used to have the green light. Remember Steam green light?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's like only certain games would get onto Steam and you had to like pass this almost like test, I guess you could call it. Or you have to be approved by Steam in order to get onto Steam. But
yeah,
then they changed it so anybody can publish a game on Steam. And now Steam is like flooded to the brim with incredibly low quality, trashy games, and people complain about it. And it's interesting too because it also makes it harder for games that are good to kind of rise to the top because there's more crap to sift through.
yeah.
And you're like, well, if
It takes a
90% of
while.
it's crap, why even sift through it?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think that I don't know. I just had like an idea about like helping like Netflix with like picking movies because whenever you get a recommendation or like you kind of know shows you're scrolling through, you're like, I want to watch this show or movie, but I don't really watch it right now. Like it looks something like something I'll watch, so you add it to your list, and so now you have a list of things that you're recommended by Netflix, by your friends or family, or things that you want to watch. But whenever you go and you like go through your list, you like can like scroll through it forever. So I think they should just come up with like a because it's like having 100 choices and picking one. That's like way
Yeah.
harder to do than picking between two things. So I think if they like had a little like bracket thing where they had picked like two movies, like okay, you want to watch a movie from your list. Here's two movies. Which one would you rather watch? And then you pick that one,
Well,
and
it's
then
the system that you had mentioned before that they
yeah.
used to have, but it was kind of like fully
So
recommended
that
by
was random.
Netflix.
Yeah, that was like, you want a comedy? You want romantic comedy or like raunchy comedy? And then it would go through like six movies. They if to fix that, they should have just made it from your list. And I don't know if
Hmm.
they had lists at that point or like queues or whatever. So now if you have a list of things you plan on watching at some point, this will get you to actually like, oh yeah, this was on my list. And you always get that like almost fear of missing out. Like if I watch this movie now, I'm not watching this other movie that I also want to watch. That means I'm also not watching this other movie that I want to watch, and then you just get stuck in this whole thing of like, why, I'm just sit here like deciding forever.
Hmm.
Or if like get like a random button, but a random button on your list on like, I want to watch a movie that I think I'm gonna like, and then you play it.
That would be kind of cool if they. It's still hard though, because even if like you're building that list and you're building it off of scrolling through Netflix and seeing a show and being like, oh, I don't really want to start
Mm.
this now, but I might want to start in the future. And then also, from friends and family and recommendations from all of them, you add things on the list. I kind of like for one part, if you go back to the whole idea that all this exclusivity is now existing with your friends and family, like recommending things to you, it's like, oh, is it on Hulu? Oh,
That's
is it on
true.
Netflix? Is it on HBO? Is it
Mm.
on Prime? What service is
Mm.
it on? And then there's no master list between them to help you with that. And then on top of that, there's like if you go to just Netflix, it's not very easy to add to that list, and there's not more options than to just add to one list,
Hmm.
right? So you could almost, it would be kind of interesting if you could like when you go up to a movie, or it could be a system where it's like we will create a list for you, but it's a 10-minute sit down. We're literally just gonna show you sections of like movies and television shows, and like you're gonna thumbs up or thumbs
Well,
down
like they
things,
kind of
and then like we'll generate a list from your thumbs up and thumbs
they
downs, or
redo
like
that. They have recommended for you
I
right on
feel
Netflix.
like whenever I'm on Netflix, recommended for me is actually the most useless thing on the planet.
Yeah.
Because first off, does anyone really use all those profiles? Like most people just either
Yeah,
have
but
like
it's
one or
for
two
that
or three.
profile though. It's like
Right.
for that
But if
person that's
two
watching it.
different people are on one profile at any point,
Mm.
it automatically will screw up that
Yeah.
individual person's recommended,
It
right?
also like shows you stuff that you watch. I've noticed.
Yeah, that too. Even like YouTube does that. I've noticed that where
Yeah.
like YouTube will try to get me to watch a video in their recommended and it'll show that I've watched the entire video and I'm like, "Why?
Oh my god.
Why would you make me watch something that I've very obviously watched the entirety of?" Netflix or YouTube. Random tangent. YouTube should have the ability to downvote recommended videos. To
You can say
essentially
not.
tell you that I do not want this
Hold
content
on.
in my recommended.
In the sidebar.
Yeah.
Oh, I know they have it like in the recommended. You can like say not interested.
Can you?
Yeah. Like I know in the app, if you go to, there's like subscriptions, trending, and then like I think they call it home, or I think it's called home or something. Basically recommended, and you can like hit on the three dots. That's like your options. You can say not interested and like not show that type of stuff.
Hmm. I have not noticed that
I don't know if it's
actually.
on the desktop. I know it's on the app.
That maybe that's why, because I basically never watch YouTube on my phone ever.
Oh, I almost exclusively watch it on my phone.
No, I usually just sit at my desk
But
and watch YouTube. If I'm like in bed, I'll watch like a TV show though, but I definitely don't watch YouTube videos. There's something like informal about YouTube videos that I like prefer it like at a desk. I don't know. If that
it
makes
seems
sense.
very formal.
I mean, it's so like a TV show or a movie. It's an entire thing that starts and it ends, and you kind of it's all connected, and it's more serious usually. Whereas like I can watch a quick 5-minute YouTube video, and it's like if I'm laying down in my bed, and maybe it's just me personally, because I'm sure a huge amount of people watch YouTube on their phones in bed.
Absolutely.
I think it's actually like more than 50%.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like primarily on their phones in
Mm.
bed. I don't know. I just don't feel comfortable in my bed, like watching on a tablet or a phone. I tend to like constantly change positions,
Mm.
and I'm like, now this position's starting to like feel sore. Switch to this position, then switch to that position, then switch to
Yeah,
that
so
position.
just that's why like a 5 minute video, just do it for 5 minutes and swap positions.
I guess I don't think of it that way. I don't know.
Okay. Well,
Um.
I kind of want to talk about like along with streaming, like we have like the it's sort of like the same thing with like the TV streaming services where with like Sling, right,
Oh
and all
yeah.
them, where like even like YouTube is having TV and Apple TV and all these things, and like I know that you're like we were talking like prior to this that
People like cable more than
yeah,
they think they do.
yeah.
This is okay. This is something of my specific, like that I've
Mhm.
found very frustrating about these channels and these streaming. And I think people don't really think about it until somebody points it out.
Mhm.
But you do like cable. Everyone likes cable. Why? Because you like scrolling. You put
Yeah.
it really good earlier. You mentioned how it was like a bracket almost in
Mhm.
of itself,
Yeah.
just like
Okay, yeah. So
yeah.
like if like when you turn the TV on and you have like the news comes on like the basic channel or whatever it is, and you start scrolling up on your cable box and you see like a movie or show you want, you're like, oh, I like that. You're gonna pick that. You're like, that's better. And then you're gonna like, oh, it's good, but like let me keep looking, see if there's anything else on. You're basically choosing between two choices each time. It's not like you're
Mhm.
looking through the whole list of shows. You're like, all right, I'm on this one right now. I'm comparing it to the next show that I see, do I want to watch that one or this one? And then you're going to be picking between the two choices. So like takes that like hundreds of channels that you have and it boils it down to two choices by just seeing one channel at a time.
Right, because then it's almost like it's like you said, it's like a bracket where you start at channel one, you go to channel two, you're like, oh,
Mhm.
CBS,
Yeah.
Big Bang Theory's on. I like Big Bang Theory. Click on that because
Mhm.
it's better than being on channel one, which is like some,
Yeah.
I don't know, some romantic comedy. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Soap opera. Yeah.
Soap opera, yeah. And then you keep scrolling up, and then you hit like, I don't know, channel like 15
Mhm.
or what. I think there was like a channel in the teens that had like Family Guy on it or something. And you're like, oh, I like
11,
Family
9,
Guy.
11, something like that. Okay.
Yeah, so then you click on that, and you're like, I like that better
Mm.
than I like Big Bang Theory. And
Right.
you keep going up, you hit Cartoon Network, and it's like King of the Hill or some, I
Yeah.
don't know, like some weird
Adult
Adult
Swim.
Swim, and you're like,
Yeah.
I just love Adult Swim, so I like that more.
Yeah.
And it's like as you go, you may think like, oh, you know what? Actually, I do want to go back and watch this other show that I hit. But you kind of look through it, and there's only maybe 5 or 6 channels that you
Yeah.
would actually be okay with
Yeah.
sitting on.
Yeah.
And then it's between those like 5 or 6 channels that you then um, pick which one you
Mhm.
want the best of versus
Yeah.
like on a streaming service where there's probably like 50 shows
Mhm.
that you
Right.
enjoy and wouldn't mind
Right.
watching.
And you also the other thing with the streaming services is like you're not gonna miss out on that show.
Hmm.
That's gonna still be there if you pick this other show. So you're like you don't know which one to pick, but if like King of the Hill's on and you're on that, or like you go to pick the other one, you're like, oh, King of the Hill's gonna end. Let me just watch it while it's still on. You're
Right.
gonna it's like a time it's like time sensitive versus like
Hmm.
going on Netflix.
And then people also, everyone loves catching something on TV. Maybe
Hmm.
like it's something it's disappearing, but if you ever scroll past like a movie that you really love and you're like, "Oh man, I love this movie even though I've seen it 20 times,
Yeah.
I'll still stop on it on TV."
Right.
But now when everyone's moving over to streams, then when you're looking at all these options for movies and oh, there's that movie that you've seen 20 times that you love. It's at the
Mm.
top of your list, one of your favorite
Yeah.
movies of all time. All of a sudden, you will never watch that movie.
Hmm.
Why? Well, because you've already seen it,
Mm.
and there's all these other options and all these other shows that you haven't seen, all these other
Hmm.
movies you haven't seen. Why would it be weird to pick this movie that you've already
Yeah.
seen?
Yeah, you're like, why am I picking this streaming site if I'm going to just watch this one thing over and over again,
Right.
basically?
You might as well just buy that one movie if you're going to watch it over and over. But the thing with TV is that you will watch it 30 times in like the course of a year if you just always catch it like, oh, 10 minutes in, oh, half hour in, an hour
Mm.
in. And it's like you're not even really upset when you catch it an hour in because then you're like, oh, cool, it's like this really cool climax
Mhm.
part. I love this part. Or you don't, there's not this feeling of like stress with
Yeah.
TV. It's very relaxed, it's very go with the flow. You can put TV on in the background and walk away, and the next show will pop up, and the next show after that. And you don't really have
Yeah.
to focus on it,
Yeah.
and you don't have to worry about picking the next
Mhm.
episode every time one episode finishes. You're watching South Park. Every time it finishes, you're like, should I just go in order or should I pick another random one? I prefer random, but I guess I can go in order because that's easier.
Yeah.
And it's then everyone ends up you end up watching it always in the same orders, and then you get tired of the orders, and
Mhm.
then you're like, okay, well now I have to like close my eyes and like scroll up and down until I'm like, okay, that's yeah, I'll go with that.
Yeah.
And you click on that, and then you just close your eyes and you scroll through the episodes, and you're like, okay, there. And
Mm.
it's
Yeah.
it's so much more relaxing. TV has always been relaxing.
Yeah, like even with the internet TVs, they don't have that scrolling either. They made it more like a Netflix where you have to go back to the different channels that are playing on the internet TV.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's basically just streaming service where instead of it being movies and shows to pick from, it's channels to pick
Yeah.
from.
Yeah.
But like I had to try out, or I did try out View and Sling, and I did not find myself enjoying them. If I was like owning my own house, I didn't have cable, and I had to pick, I wouldn't pay for cable personally. But I also don't think I would pay for any of these channel services. I thought I was going to like a couple months ago before I had tried them out,
Yeah.
but once I tried them out, I realized that they're very the navigation of them is wonky. Like I remember I was able to go into a show and then through the show go into other shows off of that show. And then it would work differently if I did that than if I backed out of a show and then searched from that menu for a show. So there would be a menu through the show
Yeah,
and a menu not through the show. I think it was Sling, or it might
that's
have been.
weird.
It was either View or Sling, and essentially it was very. I found myself getting very confused because then like the controls would change
Mm,
depending on how you got to the show.
weird.
Yeah, like I think it might. I think it was Sling. I'm not
It
sure.
might be you.
It might just be View actually
They
though.
have some weird
But
thing.
I remember doing all this research and trying to pick which one was the
Yeah,
highest rated and had the best
yeah.
channel options. And
Hmm.
I also found myself every time missing a channel that I wanted. So it's like one of them didn't like
Yeah, it's
include Comedy Central, and I was
mhm,
like, what?
yeah.
And it's
This
like, why would I ever want to pay for not having
mm,
Comedy Central?
yeah. You're like missing that just one. That's it. Yeah, it
Hmm.
sucks.
So it's not really enjoyable either, and they don't allow you to scroll, but you can see like the I guess what is it called, the programming,
Yeah, the guide.
the guide.
Yeah.
But then it's like on cable, when you were looking at a guide, you can like still, I guess that's the only way to scroll in the View. I think it was PlayStation View.
Okay.
The only way to sort of in their version of scroll
Yeah.
was you had to access the guide and then like go up and down the guide and then hit enter, and then there would be like the small little TV in like the top right or whatever would change
Yeah.
as you go
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
But like that would be the only place to do it.
Okay.
But then I don't think you could access the guide depending on the way that you got to the episode based off of what I was saying
Oh my
earlier.
gosh.
And I don't know why they're so complicated. Couldn't they just make it just literally cable?
I don't know.
Why can't my up on Oh, this is one thing that's really interesting
Okay.
actually. And the reason why I think a lot of these things aren't as good as they could be is because there's no universal controller design.
Okay.
So going up and down, like one controller could have like 5 to 10 more buttons than
Hmm.
another one. So like the lowest end Roku has less buttons than the highest end
Uh.
Roku or
Yeah.
whatever. Or like different, like if you're using a Roku versus like a Chromecast or versus
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
have different buttons and different layouts of buttons.
Hmm.
So
I
it's
mean,
I
that
think
still comes
complicated in
down
that sense.
to the service because um, if like it's on Chrome, I feel like you should have some sort of app or something like that to like kind of coincide with it to be like, all right, because like I don't know, for YouTube, for example, right? You can just cast your show there, like your video you're watching on YouTube
Hmm.
to the Chromecast. You can just scroll through all the stuff that's on there. Why can't you just like do that with like TV if it's like Sling or something like that? And it's like on the guide is on your phone. You just tap it and then you go to the next and just would cast.
Honestly, I think the only reason why these, I'll call them cable replacement services,
Okay.
um,
Internet TV.
yeah,
That's what I
internet
call it.
TV, but whatever, they're trying to
Yeah.
replace cable. So
Yeah.
I want to call them that just because I feel like it's a broader stroke
Yeah. Yeah.
specific
Okay.
to,
Yeah. That
because it's like
has like
not
so,
Netflix. Netflix isn't trying to.
replace TV
It's
cable. It's not trying to.
it's not trying
I
to.
know.
Yeah,
So the ones that are trying to are internet TV.
yeah. So the idea behind them, I think, was that because that we exist in this time where people are crowding towards and flocking towards streaming services, that there's this belief that cable is dead, and it's dead
It's
not,
dying.
it's dying in the form of like number of people subscribe to cable
Yeah.
and are paying for cable or monthly bills for
Okay.
cable is going down. But I don't think that demand for cable like services is going down. But they misinterpreted the market and they were like, people want something that's more like a streaming service and less like cable. So how do we make cable more like a streaming service?
I don't.
But it really should have been, how do we make a streaming service more like cable? So
Yeah.
they did it backwards. They actually made it so that instead of just scrolling through channels, you actually
I don't. Know. I
pick
don't.
pictures of channels
I,
and what might be on them.
I don't necessarily like agree because I think the market said that we don't need to pay for our triple play internet phone TV shit. We just need to pay for internet and then we can get everything on there.
Yeah.
Because like we have our cell phones, we don't need the landlines. We if we have internet, that's like the only thing we need to buy because then we can get our TV on the internet, and that's all we need to
Even
buy.
phones are basically on the internet now
Right, you
too.
can still basically do it through there, but like that's my point is that I think it was more like screw cable services. That's why they're dropping off, and yeah, we're still trying to find a replacement for cable like services, but that's why Sling came around. Fubo, I think, is the other
Yeah, and
one,
I
and
think I
all this.
agree with you in that
Okay,
like cable is dying because A, it was too expensive, unnecessary in terms of being a separate from the internet in terms of like cost, which is also related to being expensive.
yeah,
Um, Most of stuff on TV you don't actually watch. You usually only watch like 10%, but then you could also argue you only really watch like 5% of a streaming service too. So you just think that you're because you have the illusion of choice, um, you think that you're accessing more content, you're really not. So you feel like you're accessing more. So I guess that's one thing, the reason why people don't like TV because they're like, well, why would I pay for NFL if I'm not even watching? Why am I paying for
yeah,
about this or that or like these news services? Um, so like a la carte TV has gotten more popular because you can spend less money and get only what you want, and that's kind of like the gimmick behind it. And I think that cable is should die and is going to die, but the psychological elements of cable, like
mm,
randomization, the ability to quickly scroll through and pick amongst limited choices based off of time, um, and then also the idea of like premieres starting at the same time as everyone else.
mm,
People generally enjoy that more.
yeah,
Uh, there's also the kind of like element of catching something on TV is more enjoyable. Like you're more
yeah,
likely to watch something, either an episode that you don't love of a show that you do love,
yeah,
or watching like a movie halfway through, or a movie that you only somewhat like, or like we said before, watching a movie that we love
mm,
over and over and over again.
yeah,
So like there's all these elements of cable that make it really enjoyable, but because it's expensive, because there's excess, because it's part of an old system
mm,
that no longer really works, we're killing it. But these big companies are misinterpreting the information.
yeah.
They're seeing it as people fundamentally don't like the designs of cable, the
Okay,
randomization, the ability
yeah,
to scroll through channels and all this
mm,
stuff. They're thinking that because everyone's moving towards streaming platforms that people prefer this choice,
yeah,
like bombardment
yeah,
of streaming. So even the streaming TV, internet TV providers still have a bombardment of choice problem, and also have like really awkward
interface. Yeah,
navigational UIs and
yeah,
UXs
yeah,
because they're trying to like package cable in a streaming
mhm,
service box,
yeah.
and they don't match in
Mm.
any way. So
W
that's, yeah.
Very worst part about the internet TV things is they're still commercials.
Yeah, that too. But
Yeah,
I don't really mind commercials.
I'm just saying, like, if I'm paying for this service, I'm already paying for your shit, don't
You're
advertise
also
me
paying
shit.
for cable.
I know that, but I'm just saying, though, like, now it's like
I think it's like a better economic system when there's more than just the provider of content and the receiver of content.
mhm,
Because if these, for example, if a show performs better, one show performs better than another show, that show will make more money in the form of the advertisers having to spend more
yeah,
because that show is going to have more people watching it.
yeah,
And then like, I mean, it's just a system that seems to have worked very well. And I think that if you like made it so that
mm,
you're almost, you're almost taking a monetary system away from the company
mm,
who's providing the content,
yeah, yeah.
and then you're also taking a medium through which to
I
advertise away from other companies.
I guess, like, that's why Hulu has, like, the tiers, right? If you pay
Mhm.
enough, you don't get ads, right?
Yeah, I
Something
think
like that.
that's something that should be an option, is like
Yeah,
a higher
yeah,
tier.
mm,
But
okay. I
I,
can agree with that.
I definitely never minded them
Mhm.
that much.
Yeah, I think the solution to this is Netflix TV, where they just put on what they have in what Netflix has on in its database
Hmm.
on like different like few different channels and just has it like going like a comedies channel and then
Yeah.
just play it so you can go catch it whenever, and you're just like, I don't really care what's on. I'm gonna watch something, and I'm gonna like it probably.
If Netflix had the ability for me to like just go on to Netflix, pick a genre,
Hmm.
pick movie versus television show or whatever, or like you said, like have
Hmm.
10 different channels.
Yeah.
You know, one of them is a comedy channel, one of them is like cartoons.
Hmm.
You know, there's like some kids focused one, there's some adult focused ones,
Yeah.
there's like horror related ones,
Yeah.
or one becomes a horror related one in
Hmm.
Halloween.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then like they have their own shows and
Hmm.
everything. Like I would just put those on. I would be
Yeah.
like, yeah, sure, I'll put on Netflix
Yeah.
and I'll just put on one of the channels and it'll just be like TV, and
Yeah.
I won't have this feeling of having to choose.
Hmm.
You know, because I think that we actually don't care that much about what's on TV that much, or even what's on our streaming services. But by giving ourselves so much choice, we hold ourselves to like a higher standard of
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah.
But in reality, like if South Park is on and like Family Guy is on, and it's just some random episode, you're really not gonna like be angry that
Yeah.
your favorite episode isn't on right
Yeah.
now.
You're not gonna judge yourself like, oh, you're watching this. Like you picked this.
Right. But if you're like picking, it's like, oh, I'm not gonna pick the episode that I don't really want to
Yeah.
watch. But if it's on TV, it's like it's more about the show.
Yeah.
So I think actually that's a good way of looking at it. With streaming services, it's become more about the episode and less about the show. Right? So like on TV, if I land on a show I like,
Uh huh.
regardless of the episode, I'll leave it on.
Yeah.
But with streaming services, I'll never watch the episodes of shows that I didn't really like that much.
Yeah.
Unless I'm doing like the binge, but
Yeah.
usually
Like
don't binge a show unless
rewatch.
you've never watched it
Well, I mean,
before.
people rewatch like The Office over and over and over again.
It's
But
only
yeah.
people who actually really like every single episode though. So like the larger the percentage of episodes that you don't like
Yeah.
versus the percentage that you do like, the worse it
Yeah.
gets, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Which is why Office is probably the most streamed
Yeah.
show ever, is because people just like every episode.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like if I'm watching or Futurama, you know, I do actually do the random thing
Hmm.
now because I just don't want to pick. But if I was forced to pick, I would be like picking always my favorite episodes,
Yeah.
and I would never pick my least favorite episodes. But then I'll end up like kind of not liking the fact that I haven't seen these episodes in a while, or it's just so complicated. It's all psychology,
Oh
and it's
yeah.
all about how we interact with entertainment media,
Mhm.
and none. I feel like none of these streaming channels have like a psychologist on their teams, like explaining to people about overwhelming choice.
Hmm.
It's like anybody. The thing is the people who make video games would also be really good at making like streaming services and things like that, because they understand the like choice
Yeah.
overwhelming. Like I
Yeah.
forget what the word is, the exact phrase is, because it's like a
Okay.
psychology term for it. But being overwhelmed by choice is something that anybody who designs video games knows
Yeah.
and builds into their systems, because video games will make money or not make money off of how enjoyable of an experience they are. And so there's like a higher demand on video games to like have a higher level of I guess like quality of life and of ease of access and things like that. And then streaming platforms like right now they're carrying themselves entirely on content and not at all on quality of service. And that's why there's a
Mhm.
bubble at all.
Yeah.
And the bubble will burst because it as more and more streaming platforms pop up, the less interesting they all get,
Mm.
and then people are just going to be like start
Yeah.
canceling, you know, this one or
Well,
that one
yeah,
and just like
exactly.
sticking with, I don't even know, like are we going to just buy them all? Like
Or are we gonna
are we
just
going to
share them all?
boycott it? Are
All
we
of
going to
us are
share it?
just
Pirating?
you just need enough friends as many streaming services there are. You each pay for one of them and then you share your accounts.
Yeah, because I guess at the same time as like the more you buy, the less you use each one,
Hmm.
and the less you use each one, the less you tax each one. So like for example,
Yeah.
if you have like a Netflix subscription that's like up to 5 people can watch it once in
Yeah.
your house. What that really means is, you know, up to 20 of your friends can have access to this account, because most likely there won't be at least 5 of them all watching something at the exact same time, because there's like 6 different platforms, and you know 5 of them are watching Hulu, 5 of them are watching
Yeah.
HBO, 5 of them are watching Prime, and 5 of them are watching Netflix.
Yeah.
So all you really need to do is have 4 friends with all the like
Each
each
different one. Yeah.
one of each. And yeah, I think we're just gonna see more of that. I guess we're gonna see the market just try to
Mhm.
game
I wonder if we're.
streaming services harder.
I don't think we'll really get it, but it would be interesting to see if there's an increase in like pirating yet again, because like you know how the threat with like video game exclusivity with
Hmm.
Epic that people are gonna pirate like Borderlands and other things like torrenting. I wonder if that becomes a thing with the streaming services, and I think with because like obviously over time the internet it'll just get easier to do that and more people can do it, even though like it kind of got cracked down, but I don't know, it might
So I think the
advance.
fundamental difference that might change how people like act towards video games in the context of exclusivity versus streaming in the context of exclusivity is that like if in video games you're still spending usually some upfront amount of money for a game, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
not really free to play games that are exclusives to certain platforms. There's some, but they're usually just
Okay.
like owned by those companies. So like,
Yeah.
what's a good example of a free game?
Fortnite.
Um, yeah, I guess like Fortnite on Epic Game Stores is a good example. It should only be on Epic Game Store because it's like an Epic
Hmm.
game, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Um, but like most of the games that people talk about pirating are games that aren't free.
Yeah.
They're games that have an upfront cost.
Yeah.
So with streaming, I can just go to my friend and be like, "Hey, dude, I really want to watch this
Yeah.
one thing on
So much
Hulu.
easier to do that.
Just give me
Yeah.
like go ahead and sign in." And then I can get your shows. But I can't go up to my friend and say, "Hey, can I sign into your Steam account and download the game and then like
Yeah.
make it so you can't play while I'm
Yeah.
playing?" Because only one person can be on a Steam account at a time,
They'll just make it so only one person can go on Netflix,
or
unless
they're
you
gonna
pay
like
a
be more
lot of money.
strict.
No, you should just make the prices for more than one account. Like, so if you're paying a price for only one like account like view at the time, then you pay more for two and then more for three. So then they can basically crack down more where like you're paying less. Because
So
if they lose out, they're gonna and they see more people are like there's an increase in usage per account, and yet they're losing accounts. Then they kind of know that people are sharing more.
yeah, I actually now that you mention it, I kind of started thinking about like how this whole thing's gonna play out, right? Because right now it's a downslope,
Yeah.
meaning that like every one of them is getting worse, and they're all still really expensive.
Hmm.
So as I think people spread out and start to realize that they can't afford 5 different streaming platforms along with their like internet TV and shit, like they're gonna start picking and choosing.
Yeah.
But then they're still gonna want to watch the shows that are on those services
Hmm.
that sound cool or recommended by friends or family or whatever. So they may start to can like increase the amount of
Hmm.
sharing that already currently while also canceling. And like you said, they're going to notice that. So if these companies notice it, they can do a few things. They can go the hard route of like kind of putting their foot down on it and being like, well, now we're going to trace the IPs of like all the
Yeah.
people using it, and if you are sharing this out with people, we're going to like in some way punish you or something. I don't know,
Yeah.
but then they also lose
They
subscribers, so I
just
guess they can't
charge you.
really
Yeah.
hardline it.
Yeah.
I don't know like how they would really enforce something
I mean,
like
they just
that.
do. So, like, here's an example. It's very basic. Google Play Music. It's $10 a month for Google Play Music. You only use it on at one the account at one device. So if I'm listening on my phone, I can't go play it on my computer at the same time.
Hmm.
But there's a family plan that's up to 5 devices. That's like $20, or I don't know what it is. It's like more money.
Yeah.
So like then you can have more devices. So all I'm saying is I think it'll break down into like more specific than just one and then five, or for example.
Right. I guess what they could do is they could actually be like, "Hey, we realize that people are oversharing
Mhm.
accounts, so we're actually going to make it so that even though you were paying for the family of
Mhm.
5 plan,
Mhm.
well, now it's the same cost for a family of 2 plan because we don't think that
Mhm.
all 5 members of your family are going to be watching Netflix at the same time because you're also watching Hulu, you're also watching Prime, you're also
Mhm.
watching HBO Go. And I think that's the direction. If they go down that direction, it's going to really damage the streaming industry because what it's going to do is it's just going to it's basically lowering the value of what you're paying for,
Mhm.
but then not lowering the price, and then people will be like, "Fuck you."
Yeah.
and I think that'll like be even worse. But if the other option that they go is reducing the price and reducing how many people are on it, we may find that like everybody does own them all. It's
Yeah.
just at a way lower cost,
Uh-huh.
so that they keep their subscriptions high,
Uh-huh.
but everybody has them all. And then somebody is going to be like, well, what's the point in having all of these? Like, if
Mhm.
everybody has all of the subscription services,
Mhm.
like, shouldn't we just have like one subscription service that encompasses them all? So I hope that's the direction that they're going to go, because I think as more of them kind of split up, we're going to see that like issue of picking and like, gaming the
Mhm.
system, sharing
Yeah.
more. And it's like they have to react to it
Mhm.
in a way that's going to like not kill their own businesses. So it's really up to the streaming companies, because we do want streaming. We just, the more of them that exists, if the prices don't drop, then it's just like gouging.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
might as well be cable.
All you got to do is make a new email address and then get a week or month
Oh
trial, and then
yeah.
make a new email address and get another
Mhm.
trial, and just continually do that.
Or like cancel your subscription
Hmm.
when your
Oh
like a
yeah.
new show is not
Hmm.
out, and then like resubscribe to
Yeah, I mean,
Netflix
you
for
can.
like a month, watch
Right.
shows, then
Right.
unsubscribe.
Yeah, you backlog. You be like, okay, at this show, this show, this show, I can plan out for this next month. I'm gonna pay for it. I'm gonna
Mhm.
watch all the shows. I'm gonna cancel it. Then you would, then you do this for the other services.
I think it's just, yeah, it's gonna get really annoying, and then people are gonna respond, and then they're gonna have to change their entire system, because it's unsustainable.
Yeah.
It's completely and totally unsustainable to be basing the entirety of the market of streaming off of exclusivity and content. It would be the equivalent of like in gaming, because it never existed in gaming, thank
Mm-hmm.
God. There's a version of it in this forms of like exclusivities like
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft and PlayStation, and the only
PC.
company that's actually doing anything that's related to what streaming service does is actually Epic.
Mm.
But like at least with Sony or with
Microsoft.
Microsoft, they own those companies.
Mm.
They pay for the publishing of those
Games.
games, right? They are internally invested, and it's like, yes, of course, like a Netflix show should never be on
Hulu.
Prime or
Yeah, yeah.
Hulu. But like The Office, which
Right.
is not created by Hulu, it was not created by Netflix, it was not created by um Disney, it was not created by any of these companies. And it's just like it was just, what was it, like CBS, or
I
what
don't
channel
know.
even is it?
I'm not sure.
Whatever channel that is, like
CBS. No.
when you have that be exclusive, it's just annoying.
Yeah.
And it would be like Call of Duty being exclusive to Sony or
Mm.
PlayStation. It's like, no one wants that to be exclusive. Like
Yeah.
that's not the type of game. It's like, if you want to make your own game, if you want to purchase Activision, right? Then yeah, sure, that can be your exclusive. But there shouldn't be like licensing exclusives.
Yeah.
And that's where what Epic is doing, and it's
Mm.
why everyone fucking hates Epic.
Mm.
Because it would be like imagining a version where you have a version of gaming reality where there's 10 different launchers, and all 10 launchers have completely different sets of games.
Yeah.
And you have to constantly switch between the launchers in order to launch different games. And you have different achievements, friends
Yeah.
lists, everything
Mm.
is different across all 10 platforms. That would be infuriating.
Oh yeah.
At least
Yeah.
like
It would be.
if you purchased an Xbox, you would only be playing Xbox exclusives, and then all the rest of the in between games are on all platforms.
Right.
But you're not going to buy like an Xbox and a PlayStation. Like, you're gonna, if you have an Xbox and a PlayStation, one of them is gonna be your in between games plus your exclusives,
Mm.
and then the other one will be your exclusively exclusives
Yeah.
console.
Yeah.
Whichever one you like the UI better, or because that's the
Your
thing.
friends more on
The
there.
friends list, or like the design of
Mm.
like just the entire usability of the
Mm.
platform, or
Yeah.
like whether or not it's backwards compatible, or
Mm.
whether or not it has um what are some like cool, like Games Pass, for
Yeah.
example, on like Microsoft, or
Mm.
you could watch your TV, for example, through Xbox.
Mm.
So the Xbox and Sony were constantly fighting over features
Mm.
of their platforms, not over Well, and the quality of their games, but
Yeah,
not just one.
and their even some content if they fought
Right.
exclusives.
So they're like they're making good exclusives, but then they're also improving their platforms and
Yeah,
the quality of life of using them. Whereas like because the only exclusives they have are the companies that they own, so they
yeah,
can't have like 1,000 exclusive games
yeah.
like Netflix can have. Um, so they only have like 10 exclusive games
Mm,
that they have to keep track of and make really good. And then for all the rest of the games, in order to get you to use their platform over other people's, is through usability. So like that's where the streaming needs to go. Is where it's like, yeah,
well,
they should be making great
mhm,
unique content
mhm,
that they own, but then
yeah,
all the stuff that's in between is on all
yeah,
platforms, and they're competing
mhm,
over the quality of their platforms and how it
yeah.
delivers content, not the content itself beyond exclusives in the form of like the companies and that they own, like the
Mm,
actual like intellectual property that they own. Oh
yeah,
yeah, that was a bit of a rant.
it's a little bit. I mean, it kind of makes sense. It's just when you have movies and shows that were like previously made that like get bought up, or like those like the creators of the show, like, all right, let me just, if you could sell out to like one of the like four, why wouldn't you do that? I guess. Like, you can't really blame the services. You can only blame like the creators.
Well, I think I mean if you think about it this way,
If
right?
it was like
So
The Office, right?
I make a TV show.
Yeah,
In the video game world, if I make a video game, I can put it on Steam. I
yeah,
can put it on, Microsoft. I can
mm,
put it on Xbox, PlayStation, put it on even the Switch now. The
yeah,
Switch has like much better
mm,
indie game
yeah,
support and
yeah,
stuff like that. So I can put it on all these platforms and make money from the entire market versus
yeah,
only one sector of the market,
yeah.
right? So but I could also, if let's say Sony walks up to me and says, "We'll give your development company $1 million
Mm,
and we'll pay for all of your marketing. We'll make your game better,
mm,
but you'll only be on ours."
yeah.
Then it's like for the developer, it's like, okay, well, I have to now decide, will I make more money independently marketing myself and being on all these different platforms, or will I make more money and have less risk by taking this paycheck
Mm.
being absorbed into this other company and then having
So,
like essentially permanently having a job
well,
and always having funds for the next game, and there's like a sense of security in that,
mm,
and then also they'll cover the marketing so the game may still do very well and make a lot of money, so since you're
yeah,
earning a percentage of it.
I think that I think in this situation, like a show is different because on these streaming services, you're not buying the the show on each of the
Right,
different services. You're paying for the service, and then
the show is
only when
free,
the show is like played, they get paid through, because that shows that that show brought those people into that streaming service.
but it's still the same idea in that like with a game you get paid by having like an upfront purchase, but with a show, right? So let's say I'm the owner of The Office.
Yeah,
I own the intellectual property of The Office. I can choose, okay, Netflix wants my licensing. In my contract with Netflix, they want exclusivity to my
yeah,
licensing, and they're willing to pay $10 million.
yeah,
And I've gone around to all these other streaming services, and Netflix will pay the most for
mm,
the exclusivity of my intellectual
mm,
property for the
yeah,
licensing. Or, right, because I'm
mm,
only going to pick Netflix if I'm picking
yeah.
amongst them, and say
Right,
like
like that's
that's
the
10
highest.
million, and
Right.
Hulu's like 8 million,
Okay.
and
Sure.
Prime's like 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the other option is that I can make it accessible to all platforms,
Yeah.
and I'll make less per watch, or I'll like not
Mm,
earn as much, but because I'm on all platforms, more people will watch me, or more people have the ability to, or have the
mm,
ability to access my show to
yeah.
watch me.
Yeah.
But then again, I guess if everyone owns all the streaming platforms, then that doesn't really matter anymore, right?
Yeah.
So they should be functioning similarly, but they're not.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing.
Yeah.
And that video games, because it came out more naturally, I think they know what they're supposed to do, and Epic's trying to like move towards like Netflix style,
Yeah.
and everyone's like, "Fuck you, we're
Yeah.
not doing Netflix style
Yeah.
in video games." Where like EA starts buying licensing of everybody. Next thing you know, Ubisoft's buying licensing, Epic's buying licensing, Steam starts buying licensing, and now all of a sudden they have like Microsoft Games Pass
Yeah.
versions on like all these
Oh
other
yeah.
things, and God, that would be awful. That would suck.
Yeah.
So I'd much rather just pay for the one game I want and be able to play it on any platform I want
Yeah.
than the other way around. But yeah, I think we've pretty much
Covered.
covered.
Yeah.
Any other
Yes.
gripes? I feel like there's a lot of things to be frustrated with streaming.
Ye-
The glamour of it has totally worn
Worn off.
off.
Yeah. 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 It's like it's just when it's just like even like now it feels like when like you used to watch like TV, it'd be like, oh, everybody's like kind of watching this, like everybody kind of knows about these shows. But then like when Netflix, like yeah, you know the show, but like it feels exclusive, you're part of a club. Like nobody's really talking about these things. It's just like you go and watch your own thing and do your own thing.
Mhm.
It becomes less of like a
Yeah, and there's like a
social
quantity
activity.
over quality
Mm,
aspect, and it's like when you watch a new Netflix show, is it going to get canceled in 2 seasons? Like, is it just not going to make enough viewership, so they're just going
yeah.
to cancel it outright? Um, I like HBO and the way that they do it,
Mm,
simply because it's like only really high quality, well made TV shows. There's not 100 of them,
mm,
and they are on TV and live and on streaming like normal. Like, so you can choose to watch them or you can catch them on TV.
yeah.
So it's like HBO has like met in the middle between streaming and traditional television, and it's also sticking with like quality over quantity. And Netflix is just like greenlighting every show that is remotely sounds good so that they can like on some headline announce like 100 new shows coming to
Mm,
Netflix 2020.
yeah.
Like buy Netflix because we'll have more shows than any other streaming platforms. 300 new shows 2021, 600 new shows 2022. It's like, is that all you guys can do? It's like you're Todd Howard. The map is 10 times as big as Fallout 4. Yeah, like,
Mm,
okay, that's going to make the game better somehow. Great. Like, more TV shows is going to make you better? No, it's not. It's just going to make it more difficult to navigate your already terribly designed platform. Stop. No one wants more shows. Okay,
great.
I'm done.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I think that about wraps it up. And what do you guys think about streaming services? I don't think anyone really loves them anymore. I think like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, four
Mm,
years ago, you ask anybody and they're like, "Oh, I love Netflix,"
yeah.
and now it's just like you don't even know anymore.
Like almost everyone has it, and it's just like normal.
Yeah, it's like become TV, but then
Yeah.
it's also just not as fun as TV. It's
No.
just stressful to use.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like now you just like look up TV shows online and then it's like, okay, it's on Netflix. Quickly, you just go on, you find it
Mm,
on there. You don't have to
yeah.
like search through Netflix.
Yeah.
Now that's why there's search time is going down. It's because people aren't even starting their app. They have to pick a show before they even go into it. Stupid. At least like Roku, like if you use Roku,
Yeah.
it will like tell you what streaming platform it's on. You can like
Mm,
just search for like
yeah.
a show and it'll
Oh.
like show everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like the closest thing to like a universal, but then you have to own all the platforms and switch between them constantly.
Yeah.
Imagine like every time you wanted to play a new video game, you had to unplug your Xbox, plug in a PlayStation, start it up, and ah,
I mean, you just have a no. You should have a HDMI splitter.
I mean you can only have up to like
Switch.
4.
Hey, you only have fucking 4 platforms.
There's way more than 4 platforms for streaming.
Okay. I got for video games.
I'm saying like if you were to look at it within the lens of television,
I know.
because you have to like you do have to get out, you have to go in. There's like a load, and then you have to like pick the profile, and then you're on the main screen, and you have to like yeah, sure, maybe it's like
Not if
only
you're searching it wherever it shows up. You just click and it loads into this to the thing, doesn't it?
right, but like if you want to switch to a different show after watching one show, you do have to like go all the way back
To the
out to the main
home.
menu, and then I
It's the
guess it's
home
not
button.
maybe that one's a bit much of a stretch and annoyance, but you still have to pay for them all. Um,
Yes.
but yeah, let us know what you guys think about streaming services and whether or not you think it's gonna pop or like if you think we're completely off the
Crazy.
mark.
Yeah.
and like that streaming is amazing and that you have no problems with anything that they do. Let us know what you guys think.
Yeah. As always, thank you for listening and following.
Check us out every Thursday on YouTube, Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, anywhere podcasts are available.
You can find us on Instagram at Unstoppable Force Podcast and Twitter at UForcePod for news and updates.
We'll see you guys next week. And
And
until
until then,
then, stay
stay
unstoppable.
unstoppable.